Hello. Can anybody hear me? I need confirmation of this before I proceed. Of course, there's nobody here, so this is an impromptu live, and I'm shadow banned. Those are two extremely negative things to have going for you. Sure, everything looks correct in the settings. I just have random notes I've jotted down, so I'm going to ramble about those things. I don't anticipate anybody actually like being here on this live stream. If perchance someone does happen to stumble upon this and one of the topics I mentioned, you have anything to add to it, that'd be great. Especially if you have a personal experience with a number of the things. Now, when I write this stuff down, I do it over time, and sometimes I'm very cryptic when I make a note. So some of these topics I might have to either figure out what the hell I was talking about or what I meant, or I may not ever figure it out and might have to skip it. But let's see here. What should I start with? Because they're kind of all over the place. Ooh. Well, I'll just say this because it just popped into my head. I have other channels on YouTube, and some of them are really old. They're from like 2012, but I don't even remember how to log into them anymore. So there hasn't been anything new on them in years, like years and years. But I found one of them I'm actually subscribed to it. So I was like, oh, wonder what I had on this channel. And I was watching it, and it was actually really funny. It was before I was like born again and saved and all that. So I'm a little more rough around the edges, but it's really funny. What I need to do, because I made a whole bunch of these, I used to deliver. Well, let's take a step back, take a breath. I was living in Portland, Oregon in this would have been, I think, around April of 2011, 2012, something like that. And my parents called me out of the blue and said, hey, we know you're pretty much a loser and have nothing going for you. So would you mind coming to Illinois and helping us move back to Oregon? And being a loser with really nothing going on, I said, yeah. I assumed that they, obviously they were selling their house and they were moving. So in my head, I assumed like the house was on the market. They had a couple nibbles, maybe even had a buyer. And they basically needed me to come there and, help pack. Because I think we, they had, how did that work? I think they had, like they hired like a truck to move their stuff, but like there was somebody, I guess, that would drive it, but I don't know if it was like nobody to load the truck, like the driver showed up when it was loaded, or if they had somebody like a teenager or something that was like, you helped them. I don't remember, but anyway, so long story short, or it's not going to get short, trust me. I get there, fly into Chicago, and I think they lived about, I think it was 3 hours from Chicago. It was basically on the border of Iowa, so it was close to the Quad Cities of like Davenport and Moline, Iowa, so there's the Mississippi River, and it was like right on the other side. And I was like 30 miles from that. So I was like 30 miles inland east of the Illinois-Iowa border. So I get there, and they hadn't even like done the first step. And so I was a little taken aback, but I was like, so at that point, like pretty much instantly, I realized I was going to be there for a while. And at first, I don't know if anybody ever here has been to rural Illinois. Not a lot going on. The only possible way you can have any sort of social life is if like you grew up there, went to high school there, and you still know like you have friends there. That is, it's one of those towns where like a lot of people don't leave it. I left it when I was 7, so I knew nobody. Like even if I went to grade school with one of the people that I ran across, I wouldn't have known it. I would have no idea. I didn't know who any of these people were. So I had nothing to do. And so at some point, probably a couple, 2, 3 months into it, I got there. It was like summer. So I think I went through the hot, humid, sticky, disgusting summer portion of the Midwest. And I did work one job at like some factory where you had to, I don't remember, box stuff up or something. And it was just ridiculous. It was a nightmare. It was a bush league the way it was run and everything. And the pay wasn't worth it. And I wasn't having fun. So I quit that like after maybe a week, maybe less. I don't know. I was like, this is no. And so now I'm back at my parents' house. They hadn't started the process. It was like, ugh. And, fall and winter started coming in. And I decided, well, you know what? If you're going to get a job for something, and it was just for something to do, like that's the only reason I got the job, was just out of sheer boredom. I was like, well, you should, yeah, this story's getting long. And I hate when people do that. You should do something that you've always thought would be fun and you wanted to do, but you just, for whatever reason, it didn't pay enough or, whatever. So I decided pizza delivery. I always thought just kind of sounded cool being a pizza delivery guy. So I went down to the local Pizza Hut, and it was like the only pizza place in town. And this town there's 2 towns connected by a bridge. And it was the only delivering pizza place in the 2 towns. So it actually like automatically doubles your delivery area. So I got that job like immediately. Like I went down there and they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So I started delivering pizza, and it was literally the greatest time of my life. I had a blast. And so at some point I was like, you know what? I should start like videotaping this stuff. And so I started making tons of videos of me delivering pizza from like the pizza delivery driver's perspective. And so I started this series on this other channel that I had way back called Delivering Pizza in Shitty Weather. Because the majority of the time I was delivering pizza, it was fall and winter. And there's some videos where I'm in like 2 feet of snow and it's just, I'm sliding all over the place and everything. It's epic. But I found that channel and I was like, oh, and I was looking because it has other stuff on there too. And then all of a sudden I started seeing these delivering pizza in shitty weather videos. I'm like, oh, that's where they're at. And like I said, there's quite a few of them. And what I need to do is figure out how to log back onto that account. I have no idea like what email it's under or anything. I have no clue. But if I can figure it out, I want to put them all into a playlist, and then I can just share the playlist, and you can watch pretty much an idiot delivering pizza in like snowstorms and stuff like that. But like I said, I was a little rougher around the edges back then, but the videos, I think I skimmed through like 2 of them real quick. I think they're still, they still hold up for sure. And if you have nothing to do, it's actually would be a pretty good time waster for you. But I have to figure out how to log in, make a playlist, and then share that link. But anyway, where was I going with that? So I'm going through my subscriptions, because like on YouTube, I just go to the homepage. I have like an Xbox with YouTube on it, so it's on the flat screen TV. I don't use YouTube very often on like a phone or anything. I just kind of have it up on playing stuff in the background. And so I was like, so I never see like the channels I'm subscribed to. I almost never see videos that they have, because I stick pretty much to the home screen, and it's always recommended videos. And for whatever reason, they don't really recommend like channels you're actually subscribed to. They recommend these like really offbeat channels. So I was like, oh, let me see my subscribers, because like some of those channels don't exist anymore. So I had to unsubscribe because they're just like dead internet channels. Like they just don't exist anymore. So I'm scrolling through them, and I start noticing there's like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 channels on there of people that like I internet knew, like we were quote unquote internet friends. And, we would talk and do these things. And I looked at, at their channels. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so. And it's like last video 6 years ago, last video 4 years ago. And I started wondering like what happened to these people? Like no goodbye, no, oh, I know I've been gone for X amount of time, but I'm back. Nothing. Just like there was a video and then crickets. I was like, I wonder if the COVID got him. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Where do the like people go? They don't even do like a, it could be. I mean, literally, like if I stopped doing YouTube 100%, like I wouldn't do. I seriously doubt I'd do a farewell video. I just don't care. So maybe that's what they did, or they thought they had so few subscribers. But that's one thing I didn't check. I don't know how many subscribers they had. They were basically friends of this channel, like people that watched my prepper videos back in the day. That we kind of connected, and they had channels, and so maybe they just figured like, hey, I've got 26 subscribers. What's the point in making like a farewell video? Nobody cares. Or, I mean, they could be dead. I know, who knows. But yeah, it was weird because there was like I would say at least 3. I was like, oh, and like some of the people I've actually physically in person hung out with, and they just like vanished. But I'm pretty sure one of them is dead. I would pretty much bet the bank on it. The other like 3, I don't know. No idea. They just sort of I don't know. Like it's interesting to think about the possibilities. My guess is they just not interested anymore, or like me, just kind of the motivation for making videos just went away. Although like I don't know, I've got, how many videos do I have on my channel? What's weird is like I don't think I can get all the way back to like the first video I ever posted. I tried once and it like stopped at a certain point. It wouldn't, and I knew there were other videos. I'm like, I made videos before that, and it just wouldn't show them. Like it just couldn't go back to that date or something. But I mean, I don't know. I've made 600 or 700 videos total, I think. And these people had like less than, I think one guy had 2 videos, and somebody else had like, I don't know, maybe 20, maybe less. So maybe they just figured their channels weren't big enough to, have any sort of a send off. So they just exited. But anyway, I thought that was kind of weird. So some of the topics I was, so one is, I was watching this video today. It's a Christian based channel. It's pretty good, but I think with all these channels, I mean, I'm very specific in my like relationship with Christ and stuff. Like I'm very literal, like the Bible, what it says is what it means. And unless it's an obvious parable and it tells you it's a parable. So I start watching a lot of like quote unquote, Jesus channels, and 99% of them I'll notice, that there's something that they're being deceived by. They'll say like the globe. And when somebody says the globe in 2025, I kind of tune them out to a degree. I get we're all on a different path, but I mean, if in 2025, if you literally think that what you were told is the truth, when it's beyond obvious they've lied about everything. And people used to go like, everything? It's like, yeah, everything, duh. Like, name something that they've told us it's real, it's true. So, I mean, you don't have to believe that's why I think the word flat earth is even a psyop. It's biblical earth. Because yeah, there's mountains and valleys, but it's not a ball, it's level. And I think there's way more people who believe in the biblical earth than anybody realizes. I think a lot of people are closet because they're afraid that, somebody will point at them and laugh, which who cares? Would you rather take God's word or like somebody going, oh, you're an idiot, you're one of those flurfers, or so what? I mean, we ain't got long left anyway, so I don't know who you're trying to impress. But so with this increase, because I've known that the earth wasn't a ball since like 2014, like a long time ago, because and it wasn't like the movement had started and all these people were, making videos. It was just observation. I'm just, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Well, how's that work? That's no way. That's not, they tell us the opposite. I'm looking at it. So I was I guess you could call it a globe skeptic, although I just didn't buy it. But like what was it, 11 years ago? So it's, and this is going on with the truther stuff too, which I'll get to soon. About like there's like this new wave of truthers, like they're baby truthers. That's what I think Russian vids coined the term baby truthers, and it's really an excellent term because like these people are like brand new to it, but they've watched a couple videos and they've gotten some catchphrases, and you can spot them like immediately because like the first thing is like it's blue beam, or they'll just throw out something that's like 30 years old. That like I forgot about blue beam until I saw the SpaceX launch and recoveries, and I'm like, they finally unveiled blue beam, because everybody's waiting for like this false alien invasion or the false second coming of Christ, and I'm like, they're using it right now. It's called SpaceX. I don't know how you guys can't see this. Blue Origin uses it too, although the SpaceX is, I think, a little more detailed because they have a crowd of people watching the launch from 5 miles away, filming it with their phones. So if you call them out and go, that's like blue beam, right? It's a hologram. That's not actually a rocket. They're like, I was there, I filmed it. And it's like, well, you were 5 miles away and you saw something shoot up in the sky. But I mean, that could be either a hologram, and then they just use really loud speakers to, broadcast a roaring rocket, or they launched something that just went up out of your sight and then just into the water or whatever it does. My take from the close-up views is if it's the same, it could be two things. It could have the CGI blue beam thing for the launch for up close, where they show you, and then crazy camera angles that like no possible way would there be a camera catching these certain shots. And it's clearly going way too slow, and it's got like one little Bic lighter flame coming out the bottom, and they all look like wieners. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. And they keep switching the camera angles to impossible. Like, what's filming that? Like the rocket's like you're underneath it, or it's coming right at you, or it's like you're going alongside it, going at the same speed. It's like, does nobody ever stop to think about like, how's this being filmed? Well, it's not. It's generated with either CGI, AI, or blue beam with holograms. But where was I going with this? Oh, so these baby truthers, they'll throw out something like blue beam, or what's some of the other, the sun simulator. Get into that later, because they're new to it, so they've got like they've learned the catchphrases like sun simulator, and so when they see something, some anomaly with the sun, it's just like their knee-jerk reaction, a sun simulator, and then they think everybody's going to go, yeah, pointing at them and go, right on, bro. And really it's like, that's like the sun simulator is like 10 years old. That's old. And there's a lot of problems with the sun simulator, and I think I should wait until I get into the sun and the anomalies that people are catching on like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, or whatever, where they're posting all these. A lot of people are seeing like 2 moons, 2 suns, something going in front of the moon, something turning the moon purple, or just all these sky anomalies. Let's just get into it. What the hell? Because I don't remember what I was talking about. The baby truthers. Yeah, this leads into it. But yeah, I am seeing a lot of like people, like I just saw somebody come out with a brand new video, and they're acting like, they just discovered this. And I'm like, dude, the video you're using to show your discovery, this thing's 10 years old. I saw that video in 2015, and this new wave of baby truthers think that they're like onto something new. It's like, they don't understand the OGs have been doing this since like the 70s and 80s. Like, I was noticing and talking to people about chemtrails in the 90s, so when people start doing chemtrail videos now, it's like, bro, you're 30 years late. Welcome to the team, but you got a lot of catching up to do, and I'm not sure how much of an asset you are. But I mean, it's good. I'm not gonna, questioning the narrative is always good. Realizing that you're being lied to about everything. That's what they need to do, is get over that hurdle to where they think, well, they lied about, the moon landing, this and this, and then they stop. And I'm like, no, dude, that's like surface level stuff. Like, you got to go down the rabbit hole. Like, pandas aren't even real. I mean, let's get into this. You've got a long ways to go, a long journey. But so anyway, yeah. So I started seeing all these. Well, I watch some. Like I said, I'll put YouTube on and just let it roll while I'm doing stuff. And there's a lot of these channels where they basically take TikTok videos and they put them on YouTube, and they just do one after another, after another, after another. And a lot of times they have themes. And so, like, a lot of them are about these things people are seeing in the skies now. And, like I said, there's like 2 moons, 2 suns, a weird sun that's like football shaped and a weird color. And then you can see the other sun, and then you can see the moon. And it's like, why are there 3 things up there? And, there's, they're doing the Rahu and Ketu, dark celestial bodies like the black sun and stuff that are causing eclipse. I'm like, this is great. You're getting it out to people, but man, Rahu and Ketu and the dark bodies that cause eclipses and the black sun and all that. I was looking into that in like 2015. Again, it's great, because I think now when people put something like that out there, like if I put something out in 2015 about, these dark celestial objects that are in our skies doing this, a couple hundred people maybe would have seen it. And now with, some of these really lame channels, but they got like a lot of push behind them. If they put out one that's, even though it's like, oh dude, that's like old news, it gets a lot more eyes on it than I ever would have gotten. So, I mean, it's not bad. It's just weird. But so I live in an area where like I can see the Milky Way every night. Like there's no lights out here. I don't remember. There's a scale for like where the best celestial viewing locations in America are, to where you can see the sky the best. And it's like a 1 through 4. And I don't remember if 4 is the best or 1's the best. I don't know. And I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's got a name. I think there's the internet. You can go on there. You can see a map. It'll show the US and it'll show you the different. I live in the one that's like in one of the areas that has the best number. Like on a clear night, no clouds, no moon, it looks like I'm inside a planetarium. I mean, it's literally insane. Like it's like when you see those photos that people take and you're like, oh, I've never seen that many stars. Well, I see them here. And it's just like crystal clear. I can see all the constellations, like Milky Way. And by the way, the Milky Way, I see it like every night, especially in the summer, because in the summer, it is when it gets dark, because everything moves left to right. Everything rotates around. So early in the evening, in the summer, like right now, it's just, I can see the Milky Way, but it's a little to the east. I have to wait until really late at night before it's over. But like in later July, August, like if I go out like right after it gets dark, the Milky Way is literally directly above my house. So I can see it plain as day. It's right there. And when you can see the Milky Way that well, like you can see it from like the horizon and then goes north to where I can't see it anymore. It's an arc. I mean, it clearly is an arc. It's like not even questionable. A lot of times when you see pictures of the Milky Way, it looks like you're looking straight up at it. So it just looks like you're looking down on a river. Like it's just kind of goes straight, from the bottom of the screen to the top. But in person, especially this time of year, because right now when it gets dark, it's a little to the east of me. So I look east, whereas in, July, August, it's like I have to look straight up. It's right above me. But right now it's a little to the east, so I can see. It's almost like saying, not really, but sort of like having a side view of it. It's an arc. You can see it like arches. It's not. So it's almost like you can see the shape of the dome. It's pretty fascinating. But anyway, what I'm saying is I have this insane view of the sky. Like every night I have a big deck. I can go out there and just look up and I can see all kinds of stuff up there. Haven't seen two suns. And the sky, daytime's the same. It's just blue. Sometimes clouds. A lot of times you don't see a cloud all day. We'll get into clouds again later. I know I've already touched on my issues with clouds, but I haven't seen two suns. I go out at night. I can see the sky like perfect. It's like literally doesn't look real. One moon. Now the moon does weird things, but not like people are saying where they see these objects. Half the moon looks like it splits in half. There's people coming out with these crazy videos saying that they're seeing the moon and the sun do all these wonky things. I haven't seen it do anything wonky other than its placement. And I've said this for a long time. So if you go out every night consistently to the same spot at, say, 10 p.m., the moon should be just a little bit out of place from where it was 10 p.m. the previous day. I like I said before, I can't remember I think it's a little bit ahead of where it was the night before. Supposedly, this is like the model that they push. I think it goes a little bit ahead every night, and then eventually after 28 days or whatever, it's back around, and however it works. I don't know. But I can tell you, because I have this crystal clear view off my deck every night, the location of the moon at the same time every night, crapshoot. It could be anywhere. One night, it's like I said this before, it's like 45 degrees up, like to the southeast. The next night, same time, it's not even in the sky, hasn't risen. There's no moon until much later. The following night, it's like to the southwest. I mean, sometimes it's directly above, like 12 o'clock, straight up. The moon, its position at this point is completely random. Like it's not following a pattern from what I can tell. It's just a shotgun pattern. It's wherever it wants to be the next night. So I was thinking about it. It's like, well, all these people, and granted, most stuff's fake. People are pieces of crap. They're liars. Some of these people seem to be, at least they appear to be honest. Like you can kind of judge with their reaction. On a side note, I want to say this. What I have noticed from people who film stuff, whether it be paranormal, something in the sky, some, car accident, whatever they happen to be filming and they see something happen, I would say 99% of human beings are the worst camera people. They have no concept of how to film something because they can't keep it steady. It's all over the place. Half the time, they're not even showing in frame what they're talking about. And then they swing back over and, oh, there it is. And the other times is the second, whatever the main event occurs, the camera goes wonky. It goes straight down, sideways, and they start running or whatever. It's like, look, people, if you're going to film something and post it, pretend like it's your job, right? And if you turn in a crappy product, you're out of here. People can't film. They're awful. I guarantee you, if I filmed something with my phone, it's like, oh my God, look what's happening. It would be top quality. You'd be like, oh, I can see all, you'd be proud of me. But most people apparently have zero concept of how like cameras work and how you actually have to point it at the subject to record the subject and not have an epileptic seizure, I suppose. But what I was saying was, so I'm seeing all these videos of like, oh, there's two suns, and I've got 3 different people from different angles saw it, and they all recorded it, and oh, now it's in this place, and oh, now it's in New Zealand, and here's somebody in Kentucky that saw it. The sky turned purple, and the sky turned green, and all these things that people are talking about, how the sky is so crazy. Look at this. I've seen none of it, like zero. Like the sky here, it's black with a billion stars, sometimes a moon, sometimes not. So I started thinking like, well, if these are real, like all these people, even if some of them are real, I think what they're doing is these are man-made events. They're fake, but they're localized. They're doing things so that like this city and this town, this region can see it, knowing that, if we do an event where there's 2 moons in this localized area, at least, 2 or 3 people are going to get it on video and post it. And if we do an event in this region where there's two suns, maybe it's a more populated area. There'll be, look, at least 5 or 10 people are going to record this and they're going to post it to social media. And I think that's basically what's happening is what do you want to call them? They are staging these events locally, in random different areas. So somebody may see 2 moons in one area. Nobody else in the entire United States sees 2 moons, but in another, say around Charlottesville or Columbus, Ohio or something, they see 2 suns in the sky, but nobody else in the United States sees 2 suns in the sky that day. I'm convinced these are events that are because they don't have whatever it takes to make it look like there's 2 suns in the sky. It would have to be a pretty decent sized object. And I don't think they have something big enough to where like a whole state or the eastern seaboard sees 2 moons that night. Whatever they have is big enough to where they can pull it off for like a county, or you know what I'm saying? Something like that. But these people who see these videos and go, sun simulator. Well, first of all, they're not thinking about a lot of things, because like these baby truthers, like I said, they knee-jerk reaction with just like a phrase they've heard, and then they think that makes them, like, everybody will look at them and go, that guy knows, he gets it. But really it's like, there's a lot you haven't thought about the sun simulator. First of all, they're not thinking about the regional thing. If they put some sort of weird sun simulator up there, it's only going to be seen by, I don't know, within 100-mile radius, maybe. So, if they are putting a second fake sun up there, it's only visible, like I said, to like maybe 1 or 2 counties at a time. So it's not impacting anything. Nobody cares. 99.9% of the people didn't see 2 suns and they don't care. And the second thing they're thinking about, because some people think that there's actually are 2 actual suns, or they've replaced the original sun with the sun simulator. Those are the worst people. The ones who are like, oh, our sun burnt out, and they replaced it. So they had one on standby. And not only that, I mean, imagine, because I believe the sun that we see is, I believe that the sun is outside the first layer of the firmament in the dome, and it's reflecting into the dome. So what we see, we don't see the physical sun. Like what the sun we see has never been a solid object. It's a reflection or a projection from outside the first layer of the firmament. And that explains a lot of things about how the sun is like a personal, like I can see it in one spot and you can be, well, like the one where if you and I were standing at the seashore 100 yards apart and the sun was setting, I would see the sunlight from the sun on top of the water and it would come straight to my feet. And you would see the same thing. But if I looked over to where you are, I wouldn't see that line that you see. And if you looked over at me, you wouldn't see the line that I see coming to my feet. It's a personal interaction with the sun based on your location. And that is how I would see a projection working. When it projects into our atmosphere, you would see it based on your location and your limits of your vision in your dome, because the human eye can only see so far. So it sees, 360 degrees around. If you spun around, you would see the same direction or the same distance in every direction, and that would form a circle. And then as you looked up in every direction, it would form a dome over here. That would be the limit of your eyes, is a dome. And so you have your personal dome that you're in that you can see with your eyes. And if I'm half a mile away, mine's different. Oh, it's the same, but it's not like I'm in the center of that one and you're in the center of yours. So where I see the sun from half a mile away, if I was to point at it in the sky and you did the same, we'd be pointing at 2 different areas of the sky. So that aside, let's just say there is, even if the reflection or the projection of the sun in our sky is a certain size, as far as, because it would have a distance, so that would mean it would have a size. Try and imagine the size of an object that a man-made object that they would have to put up there so that everybody saw the sun as it should be, coast to coast. The East Coast sees it rise, go up, 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 up to their head. It's noon. They see it starting to go down, 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 down. And then, and then in the other time zones going further west, they're going to be like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours behind what you saw. I mean, imagine the size of something it would take to cover the entire, and you would see it from Texas to Minnesota. Like the breadth of this object would be insane. So, I mean, it would have to be on a scale that it would have to be like the size of, this thing would have to be able to, for everybody in the United States to see the sun up in the sky doing what they expect it to do, but it's a sun simulator. This thing would have to be ridiculously huge. Even if it was only 35 miles up, it would still have to be miles and miles and miles wide. Okay, so A, how and where do they build something so intensely large? B, how do they get it off the ground? Like, to where, it's supposed to quote unquote orbit. Let's say it's, like I said, 35 miles up. How are they going to get it from the ground to 35 miles up? And then how are they going to keep it there? And then how are they going to make it do this circuit? Repeat it every 24 hours. It's doing this exact same, so that you see the same sunrise, noon, sunset. And then what if something went wrong with it? Suddenly, like the world's just, let's just stick it to the United States. The United States is completely dark. No sunlight, no day for a week until they somehow get up to that thing, and then they find out what's wrong with it. They repair it, turn it back on. And then suddenly, oh, look, it's like somebody flips the switch and it's daytime in like Montana. It's like, no. Okay, so you're not thinking it through. But anyway, yeah. So the baby truthers have a lot of, I get it. They've got a long ways to go. And this is all new to them, and they're very excited. Oh, geez, there's, what's to say over in the chat? Oh, yeah, sheepdog. The reason I didn't, I was going to do this yesterday, but I didn't because I was at the community well getting water yesterday. And so it takes 2 hours and I was bored. So I called sheepdog, and I basically just talked about this stuff to him for like 2 hours. And so when I got home and everything else done, and I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I can't. And then today I was like, I got some people coming over tomorrow to help do some work. So I was like, I should just check all these things off my my list that I've made, my notes. And but yeah, I don't know how long you've been here, sheepdog, but yeah, I was talking about some people that I used to that I met through the YouTube channel, and then kind of, we talked, and like I said, a couple of them I've seen in person and stuff, and then they just like vanished, like their channels haven't had activity in like 6 years or whatever. And I was wondering if maybe they're like, COVID got them or what happened, but because that was around I think one of them was 4 years, and that would have been like peak COVID. But so what else do I have? So sheepdog's probably like he's gonna have heard all this stuff yesterday when we talked on the phone. But so this is another topic that, well, it's kind of like the clouds, but let me do the clouds first, because I've already done clouds before. That I'm not saying clouds are fake. I'm saying that they're not what we're told they are. Because they shouldn't float. If clouds existed, they should just all be on the ground. Okay, because they clearly weigh more than the medium they're in. They tell us that storm clouds can hold tens or hundreds of millions of gallons of water. It shouldn't be floating. All right, I mean, that's just ludicrous. But I've already gone over that. You guys know my opinion of clouds and how we're not being told something. But usually when I have something like that, like clouds, once I get it out of my system and I talk about it, it's like I'm pretty much done with it. I'll still look at them and go, yeah, I don't know what you really are, and yeah, I'm sus. But I don't dwell on it. But the clouds thing, I just kept, it's like something about the clouds. So I decided to do a search to see how many times the word clouds is mentioned in the Bible. Because usually when the Bible mentions something a lot, it's very significant. And so I was thinking, the word clouds in the Bible, I was thinking 10, 15 times maybe. And I thought that'd be like high. Like, man, if the Bible mentions clouds like 17 times, I go, that's going to be interesting. 125 times. Like, why does the Bible mention clouds 125 times? And it's a lot more if you use cloud, singular, not plural, or cloudy. It's like 240 times or something like that. But just the word clouds, plural, 125 times. And okay, so again, don't know what clouds are, don't know what the secret is, but that to me says there's more. I was on the right track. Something's off with clouds. And I think that could be why they're manipulating the weather and making fake clouds and these chemtrail clouds on these other. I think they generate clouds from like NexRad and Doppler. I think they're putting, and I think the ones that they're making might be lower than the real clouds. So it's almost like they're trying to mask the actual clouds with a layer below those, which would make sense if clouds aren't what we think they are, and they're trying to mask the fact that maybe they know something's coming and it's got something to do with the clouds. So they're basically trying to muddy the waters by putting artificial weird chemical clouds intermingled with the actual clouds. I don't know. Anyways, it's food for thought. But on the same type of subject is in 2016. I've never been like much of a sleeper, and I actually am more awake and do like I have chores to do here. Today was 90. So like I just wait until it's pitch black, put on a headlamp, and go outside and do stuff that would have sucked during the daytime. So I'm a night person. And even if I'm not out doing something at night, I just lay in bed and think or read or watch something, watch a video or something, but I'm awake. So I've been up, and I used to have jobs where I worked at night because I just liked it better. I was more awake, so I would do night jobs. So I've always been up and awake at night. In 2016, I was like randomly, suddenly, it was just like, why am I hearing all these birds chirping? And I thought it was like, maybe there's a specific breed of bird that, doesn't sleep at night and chirps. But then I noticed, well, no, they're all different sounds of chirps. And I brought it up. I don't remember where, but somewhere I mentioned it on, say, 2016. It could have been, Facebook or YouTube or I don't know. And it was like crickets. Like, it wasn't like people necessarily went like, you're crazy. Birds don't, it's just like, it just went out and flopped. Like nobody said anything. But all of a sudden, I'm watching like I got YouTube running, and they got one of those things where they take strange TikToks and make compilations and then make a 20-minute video of all these random, and all these people started talking about birds at night. Like it's new. Again, there's a lot of people who are into like baby truthers who think they just invented stuff. Like, have you noticed lately? No, I noticed it in 2016, 9 years ago, that the birds were active at night. And a couple of times I've gone out at night because like my dogs were barking, and it was like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and the birds were like going pretty crazy. And I thought about just taking my phone out and recording audio and then putting it into a video and saying, this is like 1 a.m. and listen to these birds. And then a couple nights ago, I was outside at it was like around 2 in the morning, and it sounded like I was in an atrium. I mean, it sounded like there was hundreds of birds in all directions in the trees just going nuts. And I guess my point is, if you see these videos online where people are going, have you noticed the birds are chirping? They've been doing it since 2016. So they've been doing it for 9 years that I noticed. And like I said, I've always been a night person, and I noticed it in 2016. All of a sudden, it was like, well, this is weird. So again, not a new phenomena, but weird. And I'm glad people are catching on to it. Sometimes it's weird being way ahead of it, because like now birds chirping at night seems normal to me, so I don't really think about it, except the other night when I went out and it sounded like there was hundreds and hundreds just going nuts. But you know, it's good to see other people waking up to stuff. I think there is a veil lifting. That veil, I think it lifts at different rates for different people. I think God waits until certain people are ready to start seeing things so they can handle it. Like I said, a lot of these things I saw in 2012, 2014, 2016. Now it's like it's new, all these people. But, you know, it's not like I want to patent it or anything, get a copyright on. I was the first one that said birds. No, I don't care. It is good to see more people seeing what I see. I mean, it makes you feel less like weird or crazy. Although I never felt crazy. I just felt like I don't belong here because I see things a lot of people don't. But seeing other people see it too, either they're going crazy too, or I was just a little bit ahead of the curve. But it's all good. But yeah, I'm trying to erase these things off my phone that I've already talked. Baby truthers. I think we got that covered pretty well. Oh, this is another thing I talked to Sheepdog about. Remember when I was talking to you about the people who don't have an inner monologue, and how to me that's like, I can't even fathom. Those people clearly are not human if you don't have an inner monologue. But I heard another thing that I just assumed everybody did this or could do this or whatever. And I heard somebody mention on a video the other day that there's people that don't. And I was like, wait, what? And that is, there's people, and I would love for people to chime in because it's a topic I've never talked about. I've never thought about it. It's just a thing. But now it's like something you have to actually say out loud. And when you say it out loud, it sounds really weird. And that is that there's people who claim they can't smell ants. And I think when you first tell people, like, or bring up like you can't smell, you've never smelled an ant, in their head they think you like pick up an ant and like sniff it, which I suppose you could do. But I'm talking more about like you've got an ant on your arm and you swat it so it, kills it or greatly wounds it or whatever. And then you smell your hand, you can smell them. The ants have a smell. I've never liked the smell. I find it kind of like, it's kind of citrusy, but like with some sort of a twang in there that's kind of not pleasant. But, and I think there's other insects too that are similar, like kind of have an ant smell. Some of them, insects have a smell. If you smash one, they have a smell, but ants have a specific smell. If you've ever squished an ant and then sniffed your fingers or whatever, you're like, and every one of them smells the same. They have there's an ant smell. And I just assumed like if you ever did that and sniffed your finger or your hand, because like sometimes you don't know if you got it, you swat at it, and then I'll smell them, but yeah, I got it. So immediately I'll go wash my hands because I don't like the smell, and it's gross. It's kind of pungent, but you have to, it's not like you can smell an ant in the room. You have to get real close, your fingers. It's not like it's something like a skunk that'll fill up it's very, very, very subtle smell that you have to get close to. But I'm like, how can you not smell that? Like if you squish an ant and smell your hands, like, whoa. It's, so anyway, I don't have anywhere to go with that other than I think it falls into that whole NPC, not human, no inner monologue. I don't know if there's any of you who do have an inner monologue, like you have a voice in your head that you talk all the time, tell yourself, hey, go do that, or what about this? And you can't smell ants, then you'd be like an anomaly and there would be no connection. But if you don't have an inner monologue and can't smell ants, well, you might be you might be toast anyway. Yeah, the inner monologue thing. And there's something else that goes with that too. It's that they don't have an inner monologue or a I think they said thought process. Like you don't, like usually if you're going to think something through, like you're looking at a problem you have and you're looking at it and going, okay, well, if I get this tool and do this, that might not work. But what if I like use leverage and, put a crowbar under there and stand on it and lift it, and then somebody else can get under there. You're working a thought process through, and you're not saying it out loud. It's in your head. And there's people who not only don't ever have that voice, but they don't have like that thought process where you work something out in your head. And to me, that's insane. There's been some really deep stuff I've been catching lately that I haven't written down because I'm not quite sure where to go with it or what to do with it. Some stuff about with reality. Time is one of those things. Time is like, I would say that the most confusing thing, or the thing that people don't understand, none of us understand the most, is time. What time is, how it works. I think the whole linear time thing is a psyop. It gets really deep because if you start thinking like right now, if I say 5 seconds from now is the future, and now it's the past. Like we just waited 5 seconds. The future was just a split second, and it's the past. So time gets really weird. It's almost like when you think about time travel and like the paradoxes and stuff. It gets weird. And I think that I'm pretty sure there's somebody who does know what time really is and are able to manipulate it. And the White House, this is like, I'm getting little bits of certain things, and you have to wait until you get enough of them to put them together to form some sort of opinion. But I saw a video today where they said the White House, you guys could probably help me on this. The White House, I don't know, they have different people with different titles and jobs at the White House, but this person is like the director of science and technology for the White House, which I didn't even know the White House had like a director of science and technology or something like that. But he was doing some sort of press conference, and I saw it. They were showing him talking about it at the podium. He said the U.S. has the technology to manipulate space and time. And of course, he didn't elaborate, because why would he? And like, no reporter was like, whoa, 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 let's back up a little bit. Manipulate space and time. Can we get a little deep? They didn't extrapolate what exactly that meant. But see, I do think that there are agencies or groups or whatever that do have a better understanding of what time actually is. And the one thing I can tell you time isn't is what we've been told it is, where it's like now, the future, and then there's the past when you were 7, and now it's now. Next year on your birthday, that's the future. And it's a straight line. That part, I think we're being completely lied to. Like, it's not that. And that's also, and I think one of the reasons, who knows, the reason they got people to believe that time was linear and it was a certain way is because it really makes it to where people who are really in that deep in that matrix of, everything they tell you, that's the only, is like when you hear something about God and his abilities and capabilities and stuff, people put it into a box of what they know as a human being. And like, so if it's time related, they just think as time, the way you've been told time works, but God is outside of time, and there is no past, present, future. It's the now, and it's always the now. And it gets really deep when you try and wrap your brain. There's certain things that when you try and wrap your brain around as a human with our understanding, it almost like starts to cramp up, like your brain starts to hurt. And what was I going to say about, did I write this down? Oh, yeah. It is a take on time too, is the calendar. Okay. We all know the calendar's been manipulated, but I think it goes deeper than that. Because the calendar used to be 13 months of 28 days, and then they had one reset day. And so think about how great that would be. So like, let's say it's January 1st would be a Monday, and it would go to 28, and the 28th would be a Sunday, and then February 1st would be a Monday, February 28th would be Sunday. So instead of having to go, oh, it's April 9th. What day of the week is that? Well, you would know that it would be a Tuesday, or is that right? A Wednesday? I don't know. So every month on that same day, the 7th of every month would be a Sunday. The 8th would be a Tuesday. So it wouldn't matter what month you were in. If you were in October 8th, it's Tuesday. You just know it. So, the whole thing works out perfectly. And, of course, so they, dicked with that, made it 12, leap year, the whole thing, and just screwed everything up. It's like they do with the daylight savings time. They're just always trying to keep you off balance and off your natural rhythm. But here's what I was thinking. I haven't really heard too many people talk about it. Maybe nobody. So they say it's 2025, and that's because time used to be BC or BCE, whatever. Let's just say AD and BC, okay? So in BC, it counted down, and then in AD, it started at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're at 2025. So my question is this. A, how did they know? Well, the easiest way to say it is, let's say it's 527 BC. What year did those people think it was? Like the people before 1 AD? And why did they choose that exact time to start at 1 when there was already 4,000 years previous that took place? And what, at any point during that 4,000 year time period that was labeled BC, if you were to walk up to somebody at any point over those thousands of years and say, what year is it? What would they have told you? And if they would have said, oh, it's 821 BC. And you go, well, what's next year? And they go, well, 820. And you go, what are you counting down to? So I don't think people knew what year they were in until 1 AD. But that doesn't make sense either. Why would because these people in the past had fantastic abilities, technological, architectural. These people were not stupid. They knew the zodiac and the constellations and the movements of the luminaries and the sun and the moon and when the eclipses. They were not idiots. So to think that they didn't have a way to know at what point in quote unquote time they were in at any given moment is ludicrous. So I just would love to know, if you were in what we call say 740 BC and you just walked up to someone and said, hey, what year is it? What would they have told you? So I think they had a year system. And then at 1 AD, 1 AD, I think what they did was they just dropped a gauntlet and said, it's 1 AD. No matter what everybody else was no, it can't be because last year was whatever. Nope. Starting over, it's 1. So, that is the rabbit hole that obviously we're being mind effed with the calendar, but also the year. If they decided at some point just to say, nope, 180, we're starting fresh, then what year are we really in? And I think the only way to get an idea of where we are in the quote unquote timeline is the sky clock. If somebody really understands how the luminaries move and what they, indicate as far as seasons and years and all that. How do we know? 2025? What do you think the odds are that we're really in the year 2025 AD? Because again, they cut it, they got a BC AD. So that really screws things up because they basically just dismiss 4,000 years. Everything that happened before 1 AD, they were quote unquote counting backwards. They were counting down, which there's no way. So we're really in the year 6,000 something. But they did something to throw us off, just like they do with the time and everything else. But anyway, those are the kind of things I think about. What did people back then think? If you asked them, what year is it? they would have had an answer because, like I said, they were very advanced. But what would they have said? What would that have answer have been? What year did they think they were living in? Because once they rebranded it and said, no, 180 starts here, then, when they say, oh, Napoleon, well, that was AD, but, oh, the Egyptians, Pharaoh so-and-so reigned from, 200 BC to 170 BC or whatever. That's not true. I mean, because that's not what, that's when they reigned based on the new numbering system, but thousands of years after it actually happened. So what year are we really in? And what year did the people in the quote unquote BC era, what year would they have said they were in if you'd have asked them? Mind boggling. They get us really confused on so many levels. And so that's why I was talking about the baby truthers who were like, oh, they lied to us about the moon landing. Did you know that? It's like, dude, welcome aboard. But boy, do you have, I wouldn't want to be starting at the moon landing today because I don't think we have much time left. And, I've been doing that. I've been like looking at this stuff since the 80s, 40 years. I can't imagine like today you're like, did you know we didn't walk on the moon? And it's like, did you know 9/11 was like not what they, okay, well, good luck with your journey because yikes. So I don't like make predictions, but I do have, I don't, I think we have 2 years until all hell breaks loose. And then I don't think that we have the earth as we know it today won't exist by between 2030 and 2033. Somewhere in that. I think we have 8 years tops. It all depends on when that covenant with many is signed. If Trump signs the Abrahamic Accords, or gets a bunch of people on there, Saudi Arabia and, whoever else, a bunch of countries on there. Because I think right now the Abrahamic Accords has like 3 to 5 countries on it. Once he signs a bunch onto that, I think you can, on that date, I think you can start the 7-year ticker. And so I think we have, I guess that would be 8 years if he signs that within the next year. So, and that brings me to this. So I was listening to that Christian channel, or I don't like saying Christian because I don't like religious denominations. I think that's another way they get you, obviously. I mean, I don't think that's a shocker to anybody by having like 72 Christian denominations and Buddhists and Muslims and Jews and Hindus. And that's clearly one of their number one. I would say that and the political system are the two ways they get 95% of the people. But they were talking about it, like the whole program. It was like a 2-hour live. It was a kind of a live stream. Yeah, I guess it was a live stream because he was taking questions. It was about basically preparing for the end times and what to do when all hell breaks loose, according to what the Bible says. Now, he kept saying that the people are supposed to escape the cities and go to the mountains. He kept saying the mountains, which, I know there's different Bible translations and stuff. And some, I think, do say, flee to the mountains or whatever. But he was stuck on that. It was mountains, mountains, mountains. And the people that were listening and sending questions in on their comments, I think a lot of them were confused because he kept saying mountains. And so they were like picturing like halfway up a steep slope in the Alps or, the Rocky Mountains. Like they were thinking mountains, like snow capped, and I think he made a mistake doing that, sticking with mountains, because what he should have said, in my opinion, was escape to the wilderness. And Because what it really means is to flee the cities. The Bible says you're supposed to flee the cities. You are not supposed to. All the cities are going to receive judgment, like the big cities. And I mean, he was saying anything 100,000 people or more. Now, I don't know how he gets where he got a specific number. Like, if there's 90,000 people in that, you'll be okay. But it's not. It's populated areas, and that doesn't mean, in my opinion, it doesn't mean a city of 8 million. Of course, that one's going to get hammered. But flee to the wilderness means no city, no size. Like, you are not in a city, period. But these people were all freaking out, thinking they had to somehow move to like Summit Everest or something. Like, there was no escape unless they got up into the snow-capped Andes or something. And it's just flee to the wilderness, which means get away from people in any area that is populated. Just get out. And it's not like, I get that. Like, I'm really fortunate. I was totally blessed. Like, what happened with me, it's almost like it was like a blink and I was in the ideal spot, and it was like effortless. Like, it all happened for me. Like, I wanted to like live out, I wanted land out, but I mean, once I decided like, yeah, I got to get out of this city. And, it was like, it happened so fast. And when I look back on it, it makes no sense, because I was moving 2.5 hours away from where I worked. So that was my income. And, when you buy a house and property, they want to see your income. They want to know you're going to be able to. And like, I didn't have that, because I mean, obviously I quit that job to move out in the middle of nowhere with no job prospects, no idea if there was any work out here, if it was steady, if I'd even be able to pick up enough money to make my mortgage. And I mean, when I think back on it, it's insane. And it almost, like, in theory, it shouldn't have happened. Like, nobody should have given me, I mean, I had a guaranteed loan through the VA, but there still had to be a mortgage company involved that you pay every month. I mean, in theory, nobody should have taken that. They would have looked at and said, no, like, how are you going to pay us? I don't know. Like I said, it was weird. So, I mean, I'm truly blessed that I ended up where I did, and how it happened. Like I said, it was fast and crazy. Like, when I look back on it, it's like, what? Like, if I tried to do that today, without the help of God doing it, like, which I think he did, there's no way. Like, on my own, no way. And so I feel for people today, because things are way worse now than, they were 4 or 5 years ago. And they're getting exponentially worse. I was talking, Sheepdog and I were talking about that, about how, like, remember like 3 years ago when people were like, the world's gone crazy. And think about like how long it took to get to that point. And then like from that point to today, it's doubled. It's worse than doubled in like 2 or 3 years. So it's like, it's going insane. So I get people now who are like, man, I want to get out of the cities. And this guy made it sound like I don't know. I didn't like this guy. He was like, I would tell people, if you can get 3 to 5 acres out in the middle of nowhere, do it. This guy was telling his listeners that a small plot of land, like, if you get a small plot, he said he considered, what was it? I think he said 100 acres, small plot of land. I'm like, dude, you're talking to people in 2025 in the situation everybody's in right now, and that not only should they get out of the cities to the wilderness, or the mountains in his vernacular, but that they should be looking at 100 acres, and he said, like, a large plot, thousands. You should get thousands of acres, and you should have, he's like, all this acreage for this thing. You're going to need this many acres for a garden, and you're going to need this many acres for your home, and you're going to need this many acres for just natural grazing land. And it was like, I guess if you're building like a serious compound and you expect to have 500 people show up, but I mean, he should be telling people, hey, if you can get 5 acres out in the sticks away from the noise, jump on it. Instead, these people, and a lot of these people that listen to people like that, they take them like really literally. Like, so now I feel like there's people who could maybe today get 10 acres somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. And they're like, no, we're going to have to save up for 100 acres. And I'm like, you're not doing them a service, bro. Like, you should tell them that if you can get 1 acre, 50 miles from the nearest town and people, do it. Like, I thought this guy was crazy to be setting the bar so high. I mean, I don't know, maybe he's got a lot of money, and to him it's like 100 acres, just go get it. He never mentioned once about, like, I understand people are hurting and money's tight. He almost acted like all of his followers just like, yeah, go get 100 acres, dude. He never once, and this is the other thing, he kept mentioning like a garden, you need this much, but he never once, and like I said, I live out in the middle of nowhere. He never at one point during his whole get land out in the middle of the mountains. The one thing that I can tell you right now is the number one most important aspect of finding property, and that's water. It's either got to have a well, you've got to have another big chunk of money to have a well dug, or there needs to be running water or a spring or something on the property that you can access and make the water clean or whatever. You have to have access to water. He's like a 2.5 hour thing on fleeing to the mountains, and not one time did he ever mention water. And so I kind of wrote him off. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He probably lives in a city. Actually, I thought he said he lived in what was it? Can't remember, but it's like a major city. So he's telling all these followers to flee to the mountains, and I think he lives like outside of, like, I don't know, like Cleveland or something. I don't know, some major city. I'm like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know. Like, I trusted him a little bit. That he seemed like a good guy, but then I listened to him and I'm like, you're telling your people to do weird shit, dude. Stuff that like isn't really attainable. He never once mentioned getting with other families and like going in on a place as a group. It was lame. It was like really sad. And I'm sure there's a bunch of people right now going, we need 150 acres. And I'm like, well, you know what? Good luck with that. And he was saying, like, cost wise, it's not that much difference between like 10 acres and 100. And I'm like, you do realize acres are sold so much per acre, right? So even if it was $100 more or $100 an acre, another 90 acres on top of the 10 you were going to buy. Okay. And you're not going to find land that cheap. So, if you're talking cheap, you might, let's just say $1,000 an acre. And instead of 10, he wants you to get 100. That's another $9,000, 90,000. Another $90,000 is just, because you're 10 acres isn't enough. You need 100. This guy was insane. But he comes across as level-headed and kind, and so people are going to buy it. But I don't know. I thought he was doing a real disservice. So I'm going to try and hit some stuff quickly because that's just. So, like, I was thinking about Elon. Elon, I don't know, man. Every day that goes by, there's more and more. I don't think he's human. I'll just be honest with you. There's something going on with Elon, and so I was kind of thinking, what's his purpose? Like, what is? And I don't know if the main purpose of this character Elon, but I think one of the things and why he relates to a lot of people is, I think one of his major tasks is to make real the things you were promised when you were younger. So, like, remember when we were kids, they're like, oh, in the year 2000, we'll have flying cars. Flying cars never happened, but I think Elon, Tesla, X, SpaceX, whatever, it's like all nonsense. There's no way he runs any of those companies and then tweets all day and plays Diablo all. It's just like ludicrous that anybody buys this nonsense. But I think he's going to come out with flying cars because I think, like I said, his role, one of the main roles is making your childhood dreams a reality. And if he comes out with flying cars, even though like that's an insane thing. Even when I was a kid, I was like, when I was like in grade school and they were saying, we'll have flying cars. And I'm like, have you seen how people drive on the ground? Do you really want those same people in the air flying around? Like, no. You'll have a flying car come through your roof. But I think I can almost guarantee you Elon's going to come out with a flying car. He's already come out with flamethrowers, which like everybody wanted when they were a kid. Like, oh, I'd love a flamethrower. He sells those. Electric cars, that was kind of like the step down from the flying car. It's like, well, if it's not flying, at least make it electric so I don't have to put gas in it. Got those. He's pretending like, people are going to go to Mars. All the stuff you thought about, like we're excited about as a child, he's making these dreams. I mean, he's not, but people think he is making their childhood dreams come true. And I think that's one of the things that the character of Elon Musk, who is, I don't know what it is. It's not human, but I think that's one of the reasons it exists is this. It's like he's like a sci-fi fantasy distraction from reality. So instead of people looking into Palantir and like, Israel or whatever else, they're like flying cars, bro, Mars. So anyway, he's just another distraction in this crazy matrix we live in. And I still can't believe people don't like the whole, what was it? No Kings. I knew when they first said June 14th, no King's Day, there's going to be all these blah, 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 and they were building it up. I go, this is a nothing burger. Nothing's going to happen. And then it came and went like nothing happened. But they fed off the energy of all the people getting all worked up and hyped up about June 14th. Oh my God. Oh my God. And then it comes and goes. Nothing happens, as always, like always. If they give you a date, like on this date, that nothing will happen. Zero, guaranteed. But they distracted you from, like I said, Palantir, the nonsense going on in Israel, and the Jeffrey list that so-and-so is not only on, he's on it a lot, which is why it hasn't been released, because he's balls deep in that Jeffrey thing. But so they give you these distractions, and the sad thing is that people are so dumb now. There's so many midwits out there that they just run the same they run the same thing every time. Like, no kings, and like that phrase just comes out of the ether, like suddenly and then everybody is just saying no kings, no kings. It's like, wait a minute, these are clearly manufactured. Like they give you a date and a name, like boom, just like they reached in a hat and pulled out, and then all of a sudden all these midwits are like no kings on June 14th, and it's so clearly scripted that I got to give them credit. It works because these people are so vaccine damaged, and so their brains are so knotted up from free porn that like you can just run the same like lame psyop every time, and they'll fall for it every time. They'll lose their minds, and then it'll come and go. Nothing happens. So that's gay. The military parade. So I didn't know. Apparently, Trump wanted to have a military parade for his birthday, but everybody was like, "That's like a waste of money, and you'll destroy the streets and with all these tanks and everything." And so he switched it to like a military day, or like it wasn't about him, even though it was on his birthday. It was about the military, I guess. So I didn't know any of that. Didn't care. But then like last night, I was watching a video and they were saying, here's video from the Trump's military parade. And, and they're like saying how, see this camera angle? This is reminiscent of like Kim Jong-un in North Korea doing their military parades. Now, I've seen like the North Korean military parades, although I think they're CGI and they're not real. But they got like, it looks like tens of thousands of soldiers. They're all in lockstep doing it. I mean, they look like robots. They're all shoulder to shoulder, and they're kicking their legs up and they turn their head at the same time. And they got all these big flatbed trailers coming through with these giant missiles on it and stuff. And so I think that's all CGI. I don't think that's real. I think it's just like a green screen. But anyway,
I see this video from like, I guess the Trump military parade yesterday. Oh man, it looked like it was so, it was, I felt bad. It was sad. It was like, there was like when the soldiers went by, there'd be like 30 of them and they're like all out of step. And it looked like they were wearing uniforms that didn't fit. And they were a weird color. They were almost like that olive green from like World War One, which you never see the military wear today. And it almost looked like they were actors, but like scrawny young kids that like, yeah, you'll do. And they were wearing like uniforms that were way too big for them. And there was like two tanks, and it just looked. And there was like 30 people on the sides of the street, like watching it go by, and it was like the most like Dollar Tree parade. I was like, what the actual? I thought it was a parody, like they were gonna like by Babylon B. It was like real, apparently. I mean, if whatever real passes for real these days. But did anybody else see the quote unquote military parade? What I saw, the footage I saw, almost brought a tear to my eye. It was so bad. It was like, what was that cartoon, Beetle Bailey, where he had like the helmet that went over his eyes and his uniform was too big and he was all clumsy and tripping over shit. It was like a bunch of those guys walking out in the street. They weren't in step. They were just like strolling. And like I said, like one tank, like an Abrams came by and maybe a Humvee. Like you see more military hardware like on a train going by. And they showed like Trump like points at the tank to like his witch wife Melania, like, oh, check that out. And it's like, dude, it was sad. It was like, I don't know. I don't know. It seemed like nobody else caught it. Like to me, it was on purpose. Like they're gonna make it look why, I don't know. It was such a pathetic looking. It was like if you go to a small town on like the 4th of July and they have like the super lame parade that morning where people put their lawn chairs on the sidewalk and like one float goes by and like the high school like and they're playing a song and it's all out of key and nobody's. It was like that, but worse. Like that would be more entertaining. It was I thought it was a parody. I literally did, but apparently allegedly that was the United States military parade. Embarrassing. It was. I mean, at least CGI it like North Korea and make it look like something. It was. I mean, it was like you could hear crickets chirping and like it almost would picture like the tank going by. It'd be like all squeaky, like it needed grease. I mean, it was awful. And I don't think those were military soldiers. I think those are like kids they put in adult World War One fatigues and just said, just walk that way. Their helmet was like over their eyes and sleeves went like past their knees. It was ridiculous, but apparently that was a thing. Um, Another thing I found out, and this doesn't surprise me, but it was like I never would have like put two and two together on this, was that and then let's see how many I got. Shit, 1, 2, 3. I've still got like 4 other topics or whatever. I might cut it off after this one and just go to the comments and then call it a night. But so I found out, and if this is one that like other people could help with, if you have, because this would be like somebody has got to have a personal experience with this. If it's true, either somebody in the chat or somebody who watches this video in the future and can put a comment down has to have experienced this if it's real. And that is that they won't take organ donations from any prior military who's been overseas, if you've been deployed overseas. And I heard about this because this guy was talking about his dad passed away unexpectedly. They had to pull the plug on him. And so they came up to the family and they said, hey, would you consider donating his organs, right? And so, which I think is, I don't want to get into what I think I don't think very few, I think a small percentage of whatever gets donated, quote unquote, goes to recipients. I think they do other stuff with the rest of it, but that's another live stream. But he was unsure, like he was still in shock. His dad just died and everything. And so he said, let me talk to my sister. he talked to his sister, and she said, well, he's not using them anymore. Like, if we can help somebody else. And so he's like, okay. So he calls them back and he says, yeah, you can do it. So they go, okay, we got to ask you some questions. And they're like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yeah. And then they go, was he ever in the military? And he's like, yes. And they go, was he ever deployed overseas? And he said, yes, he was in Germany. And they ended the interview. Sorry, no can do, done. And I agree with that for two reasons. And one of them is because of what I think they do with a lot of these donations. One is when I went overseas, I went to the Gulf War, and before they send you overseas, they line you up and they vaccinate the holy shit out of you with these air gun that shoot it through your skin, and they just boom, boom, boom. You go down a line, and there's like a guy on each side, one arm each, boom, 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 boom. And I found out when I was going through my VA disability claim process, I asked for my vaccination records, and they said they're sealed. They won't. They would rather just go ahead and give me 100% disability than let me see what they vaccinated me with. So that got me thinking. I'm like, okay, so if you've been overseas, they hit you with whatever they hit you with. And so if they're using these, because if they were using all the donated organs to transplant into people in need, they wouldn't give a shit. Like, why would they care if you were shot up with some weird shit when you're in the military? They would just give the kidney to little Timmy, take the money for it, and then if Timmy lasts 6 months, we tried. They wouldn't care. They would just do the operation, take the money, call it a day. But if they're doing something else with your liver, corneas, kidneys, whatever, and they know that, well, it's got this shit in it, they're not going to want to touch it. So I would love to hear if anybody ever had a family member pass away and then, volunteer to or try to donate their organs if they were denied. That would be cool to know if that's true or not. So anyway, like I said, I still have more shit to talk about, but my throat hurts and I'm done. But let's see here. There's not a lot of comments here, but I'm not the world's fastest reader. I'll try this. Talk amongst yourselves or sing or something. I'll be reading. Some of these comments are probably about stuff I talked about over an hour ago, and I don't remember. Yeah, the TikTok thing. I've never subscribed to TikTok. Never been on TikTok. But the thing I've noticed, obviously, and I think you can't not notice it, is the TikTok. I guess it's the first app platform that started this trend that literally makes me want to rip my hair out of my head. What the hell is up with these people that they put like a 480p video behind them, and then it's all grainy, and then they're in front of that, and they take their pointer finger and they have to point at everything like you're retarded, because they take up half the screen. So you're dealing with half a screen. Like, if you can't spot the subject on half a screen's worth of real estate, they think apparently they have to point at everything because you're too stupid to, like, oh, there's a panda, and they're pointing at the panda going, this panda. You're like, yeah, I see the fucking panda. And they always have their head is always on the screen. Like, they have to be on this, like their face has to be in your face. Like, I don't want to see half of your ugly face and your pointy finger. If you have to talk, that's one thing. Show me the video. Tell me what you got to say. Bye. I don't need to see your, and it bounces. Like, they move. It's like they're floating, like their head's over here and then it's over here. And it's always covering like the thing you want to actually see and read. Like, what's that say? And their fat heads over it and they're pointing. It's like, oh my God, how can anybody watch this stuff? So I'll listen to it like in the background because I don't have to see the floating head and all the pointing. And they're really crappy. Why is TikTok's video in the background, like the subject that they're pointing to? Why does it always look like it was filmed with a potato? It's ridiculous. I don't know how that application, like, if I came out with that quality of that shit and had people with their big fat head floating around and pointing at shit, it would die on the vine. I don't know how people get into TikTok. It's like, it looks like it's from like the 90s, like MySpace era, like that quality. Internet's all brand new, everything's shitty and pixelated, and people don't know how. Nobody's used to being on camera, so they're all awkward and doing stupid crap. And I mean, it's like they went back to like 1995. It's ridiculous. TikTok sucks. And every single person on TikTok, no matter what they're talking about, and like a lot of them are talking truth. They're talking about shit they put in foods and shots that have certain shit in it that if they inject you, you fucking die. And I mean, it's not like, crazy. They're telling you, true things, but every one of these sellout shills has to go, this is of course for entertainment purposes only. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, you're talking about, kids dying. This isn't entertaining, but everybody's got to cover their little asshole because they're afraid that TikTok's going to take my account away. And that's how I get all my money, by pointing at a screen that I don't really see, but everybody wants me to point. It's like, oh my God, this world sucks. If I had a TikTok account, I'd be like, this isn't for entertainment purposes. This is like real shit. Okay. And I bet, I don't know, they probably wouldn't delete me. These people all think they're going to get deleted if, like, oh, I spoke the truth. I better, it's for entertainment. It's like, you suck. And you know what else goes along with that? And this is getting worse on X. Okay, this is a bad trend that's starting, and it's going to lead nowhere good. And that is these people are, I mean, remember when people were wearing masks and you just like, especially like say they're in a car by themselves driving and they got a mask on, it was like the biggest tell. Like you couldn't buy advertising or publicity better if you wanted like everybody to know you were a piece of shit, like cucked out, gay, scared little piece of crap, than to wear a mask everywhere and look all frightened with the big eyes and you're like shaking and staring at everybody and making sure nobody gets 6 feet, 6 feet. I mean, these were the gayest. Well, there's a new one. There's the 2025 version of the double masked in the car alone. And that's on X. When you see somebody post something, whatever, and the comment guy, the guy comes in with, at Grok, is this true? Holy shit. Could you find a bigger homo than the at Grok, is this true guy? I mean, talk about a neon light with all these arrows just pointing at, like, homo. At Grok, is this true? Like, Grok, a software program designed by the controllers, is going to be like, oh yeah, it's true. We never landed on the moon. And I mean, what do they think they're going to get from it at Grok? I mean, oh my God. And it's going to get worse. People are going to just go to AI for everything, for quote unquote truth. They're going to fact check with ChatGPT and at Grok. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me, right? You're asking part of the Matrix if something somebody said against the Matrix is true. That's going to work well. I mean, at Grok, is this true? You want to reach through the computer and literally manually strangle this idiot. But, again, the dead internet theory, get into that. I mean, that's, they've admitted, again, who knows what's real, but this is a weird thing to admit if it's not at least partially true. I think there's probably more truth than what they're admitting, but they're admitting that 50% of all interactions on the internet are fake. They're bots. So more than half of all things you read, comments you see, everything is a bot. It's not real. I would replace bot with AI. I think it's all AI generated. But all these users that, like, especially the ones that like to get in, like, they'll say something that's clearly meant to derail the topic and get people bickering, are completely fake. So, I mean, they're like Israeli bot farms where they just have all these people keyboards and they're just on social media, basically just arguing with people. So maybe, I mean, the optimistic me would be like, at Grok is this true guy is a bot and it's not real. But then like the reality, like the 2021 post 2020 COVID guy is like, nah, that's a guy. His wife's got to be real. Can you imagine his wife's like, are you asking Grok if things is this you? I mean, talk about getting cut off. Holy crap. Oh, Grok. Is this true? Um, Clouds sometimes mean crowds of people. Is this one of those dead internet trolls? How does clouds mean crowds of people? I've always thought clouds meant puffy things in the sky. They're clouds. Like, if I was talking about a crowd of people, I wouldn't call them a cloud. I would call them a crowd. That's a ridiculous comment. I don't know. Yeah, that's dead internet stuff there. Yeah. Hopefully you're not still watching, because I don't think you'd be grasping. Clearly, you're not grasping the topics. Let's see. Yeah, the inner monologue, super creepy. Anybody not able to smell ants? Has anybody ever smelled an ant? And I've smelled ants hundreds of times. Like, I know exactly what the smell is. Ever since I was little, I'd swat an ant and smell my hand. Oh, yuck. Maybe there's people who've never even tried. Like, they don't know if they can smell ants. Yeah, the simulation thing, I think that's a psyop. That's kind of like the stuff in the sky where I think it's localized for people to see two moons, but only 30-mile radius actually can see that. And so two people film it and put it on TikTok and go, there were two moons last night. I was like, well, for you, but it was fake and nobody else saw it. I think that's the whole simulation theory. Like, we live in a simulation. That's also being, I think that the quote unquote evidence for simulation is being put out there. Because they don't want you to know the truth. They want you to think it's a simulation. It's the same as, living on a spinning water ball in the vast emptiness of space, where you could be hit by a meteoroid at any second. It's like you feel like small and useless. It's like, I'm in a simulation. What do I care? So they're just taking you away from the source of God by saying it's all a simulation. And so they put little things out there to lead you. They're just bread trails. And you're like, oh, simulation. It's like, no, they're fucking with you. Let's see. Yeah, the time thing, I'll never be able to wrap my brain around. The Mayan calendar. I think there was more to the Mayan calendar than. I don't think it was about what they were pushing. I mean, they made a damn Hollywood movie out of it before the date, January or December 21st, 2012. Like, the movie was made and released like right before it. So like, they were profiting on it. Like, before the end of the world, they were going to make a couple more shekels. Come on. But I think there is more to the Mayan calendar. I think it's something completely different than, is this like a countdown, to the end? And then we all did die on 2012, but the simulation kicked in, and now it's just all so stupid. I used to really kind of write off CERN. This is another thing I could talk about for a long time, so I won't. I used to write off CERN as just like, I thought it was just like basically a prop. Like, there wasn't actually like that, the picture you always see where it's like a weird round thing with like shit tons of wires on it. And it's like, yeah, they shoot the particle down. I always thought that was a prop, and they just made this like movie set thing with a bunch of wires on it, took a few pictures of it and said, there's the Large Hadron Collider. That's what it looks like. And it was just basically like those Western towns where, if it's just, they're just fronts, like a front of the building, and you just push and it falls over. I'm starting to have second thoughts on CERN. I don't think they're doing what they say they're doing. I don't think it's like, we're smashing particles together to, I think there is some serious stuff going on there, and that it's darker than probably anybody suspects, and not what anybody thinks either. Like, I think there's a lot of misinformation put out on purpose. I think putting the Shiva the Destroyer statue out front was just a distraction to get people going, and look, they got Shiva the Destroyer. It's like, dude, they could put Charlie Brown out there. It doesn't matter. Nothing's happening there. I think it's all underground, and I think it's really dark. And I think that I think there's two CERNs. There's the public press version of CERN where they, push out one narrative, like this is what CERN is. And, some people will get triggered and some will think it's great. But then there's the real CERN that nobody gets to know about. Let's see what we got. Oh, oh man, I didn't even get into time. I mean, I did talk about time, but like more like what it was and what we don't know what it. But the speeding up of time, the ridiculous rate that the days are going by, and I mean, we're already halfway through June, which is halfway through 2025. Like it's half over. People keep talking about 2025 is going to be like when all these people die. But I was like, well, you better hurry up. It's half over already, and that's on like the macro, but on the micro, holy crap! Like just days, the hours. I'll look at the clock and I'll do one thing and look back and it's like 3 hours. I'm like, what the? I'll get up, do my chores, feed the animals and stuff. It's like 2 p.m. And then it'll get dark at like, I don't know. That's another thing with the sun and the moon and everything is the getting dark and getting light and the length of the days and that's way off. None of it makes sense. But like it'll get dark, which I mean it's only June. It's already like it gets dark like at 9. It used to be like August or so before it would get dark that late, but like it's dark 8:30, 9. And so once it gets dark, I'll be inside doing stuff. And I'll look, and it's like 2 a.m. Anyway, something's going on with our perception of time and how quickly it passes. Now, I know the Bible, God talks about he'd have to shorten the days. Otherwise, basically, nobody would make it. But I thought he meant like the return of Christ would be pushed up. Like he'd have to shorten the days because, let's say God was planning on doing it on this time, but if he did that, it'd be too late. There'd be, so he'd move it up, shorten the days, and Armageddon and the second coming and everything would happen. But it's starting to seem like when he says shorten the days, he literally means shorten the days. Like, days are flying by. Like, it's at the point now I have to check almost every day to know what day of the week it is, what day of the month it is, and sometimes what month we're in, because they fly by so quick. I'm like, I'll remember like, oh yeah, I had that appointment. I did that on like the 7th. That was like what, 3 days ago? And I look and it's like the 18th. I'm like, it's been like 11 days since that happened. I thought it was like 3. So yeah, there's some craziness going on. Backstage. Oh, you know what? I'm on the YouTube. Let me check the StreamYard. Oh, it must have been a while ago. Nobody's waiting backstage. But like I said, it says I've done 103 minutes. That's way, way excessive. So anyway, everybody take care. Peace. God bless. I do agree that you should do everything you can to escape to the wilderness as soon as you possibly can. And, a lot of people were worried about, like, when I look back on it, it's like I had no way to make my payments. But I obeyed and he took care of it. It's like you have to, if you obey the Father, and he did say, you can look it up, that you're to flee the cities and obey and go to the wilderness. If you do what he says, he will take care of you. So, all these people are going, what about my mortgage? What about, and there was a lady that was asking that guy, he's like, okay, if I flee to the wilderness and apocalypse and everything, no mark, you can't buy or sell, how am I going to pay my taxes? And I'm like, lady, by the time the mark of the beast has been implemented and like the dragon system is in place and it's chaos and death and there's world wars going on, it's like, do you really think they're going to be collecting taxes at that point? They're not going to have money anymore. It's going to be all digital. It's like you're not going to have taxes. You're going to get like your universal basic income pittance to get by on every month, and that's only if you follow the rules. Otherwise, they won't even give you that. And then somebody was asking about their mortgage, and I'm like, look, are you kidding me? And he had some long-winded, and I was like, no, it's simple. If we're like in the end times and you're seeing the most horrible people are being rounded up and killed, and it's like the people who work at the mortgage company who get the notification to then like call you or send you, they're going to be at home trying to keep them and their families alive. They're not going to go to work every day and go, oh, I wonder who's like late on their mortgage. It's like that shit. There won't, let me put it this way. Once the B system kicks in full, like to say the Great Tribulation, the last 3.5 years, you won't have an electric bill. You won't have an insurance bill. You won't have a mortgage. You won't have you won't have monthly payments. Okay, that ship would have sailed. So don't worry about like you may only have to like pay for your land and property or whatever that you get. Let's say you get it 4 months from now. You may only have to make payments for a couple years. And then it's just like everything's going to go to hell, fall apart, the end times, fire and brimstone. You're not going to have any more payments. Okay. Once the shit hits the fan, you can write out, like, mortgage is done with that. I mean, you're not going to owe any more on it. Okay. There's not going to be anybody. They might come around and like get you to take the mark or, bend the knee to the Antichrist, but nobody's going to be showing up to say, hey, you're a little late on your taxes. Okay, so don't worry about that kind of stuff. But like I said, if you obey, do what you're commanded, he'll take care of you. He won't turn his back on his people, especially those who obey his commandments. So I don't know. It's easy for me because I'm already out here and I've already got a place established. I'm like dug in but if I wasn't, that would be my number one priority. I'd be doing everything in my power. If I had to live in an RV on a and haul water with a bucket, that's what I'd do. Do whatever I had to do, but I would not be anywhere near a city. So on that high note, everybody take care. God bless. And talk to you again at some point.